Hey everybody and welcome to a new video. Because of the lack of One Piece news despite our anticipation, I thought I'd make a video that may get you hyped more for it. Of course, a big disclaimer here is to not raise your expectations to unrealistic lengths. I've seen people expecting 10-15 level episodes for every single one, and that's comical. And because I've also previously mentioned how other fundamental elements are more important than the number of key animators, this is important to take into consideration. Another disclaimer is that the names I'll mention are not guaranteed. There are people who previously worked alongside the One Piece remake staff on prior projects and have good relationships with them, and most of them might appear as guest animators, not regular ones like the confirmed Imaizumi and Fukuda. The third disclaimer is that I'm not a leaker, so I have no idea what's actually happening inside of the studio, and if I know, I would not leak it to not potentially harm the animators' careers. So now that we got this out the way, let's get into it. Making anime is all about connections. For producers, series directors, or production assistants, it's very essential to build relationships with talented people. Even individual episode directors can play a role in inviting talented people to help out. This is why, for example, you'll find shows under certain names very stacked with talent. So with this video, I'll talk about the connections the staff for the One Piece remake has after doing a lot of research. So I would appreciate if you support the video and channel here, and I might make another part soon for episodes directors or even more animators after we get more updates about the remake. So let's first talk about the One Piece remake producer, Ryota Kawamura. He's a young producer who is handling his second show so far. His first anime will be out soon this year, so we'll get a better idea of his work. But the promising thing about Kawamura is the fact that he already has great connections to talent. He is a close friend to the animator Toya Oshima. He is one of the best animators who has worked on countless highly praised shows, like One Punch Man Season 1, Mob Psycho, Ranking of Kings, and so on. He worked alongside many legends in the past. I will probably eventually make a video about him because he's one of my favorite animators. One of his recent works was Kaiju no 8 ending. He directed it himself, and the ending had Ken Imaizumi amongst the animators, one of the two confirmed animators for One Piece. So yeah, it's very likely we see Oshima participate in one way or another, and I can see him directing the ending or opening, although I prefer to see his key animation instead. The problem is that such a well-known animator is constantly sought after, so the possibility of him working on something else remains. Kawamura was also able to invite Reiko Nagasawa on his fake commercial. She is the chief animation director for Freedom. She is also a great animator, but I really doubt she'll participate considering she'll be busy on season 2 for Freedom. And if she does, it might be in minor ways only, maybe like a cut on an opening. Kawamura seems to also have good relationship with Masaki Endo, a veteran animator who was very active on the recent Bleach. It's not surprising considering Endo's involvement in Studio Pierrot over the years. That's where Kawamura originally came from. He's mostly an effects specialist, but also a great animator overall. Hiroto Nagata is also close friends with Kawamura, and Nagata is one of the craziest animators. His work is legit jaw-dropping, and his approach is very unique with smears and effects. He even influenced Vincent Chansard's approach considering they worked together in the past, but I'm not sure how much freedom he can have outside of the studio he works on, so the likelihood of his participation isn't that big. There are more people Kawamura has close ties to, but most of them I assume won't participate because they are busy on different stuff or usually work for other studios and don't have enough freedom to work on other stuff. But now let's talk about the production manager, who is the biggest deal here when it comes to inviting animators, Ryota Asaoka. He is probably the one guy who can bring us absolutely insane animators to participate considering his wide connections, starting with Shu Sugita. Sugita has worked multiple times alongside Asaoka, for example on Boruto episode 175 or Konosuba, and he is now a WIT in-house animator. Sugita is no stranger to One Piece. He handled some of its biggest climactic moments in the Wano arc. He is an absolute god with effects work, and the way he animates Luffy's rubber powers is probably my favorite ever. But he mostly works with another producer at Wit Studio, the producer behind Spy Family, so he might have to divide his work between the two. It doesn't help when he also works on My Hero Academia occasionally. He is someone who gets a decent bit of freedom. Since he's a big One Piece fan, I think he will participate one way or the other. Shinji Huang is probably one of the most popular names for the Naruto franchise, and one of the absolute best at crafting interesting close-range combat. He appeared on Takeru Ogiwara's episode, who is close friends with Asaoka as well. He is someone who could potentially direct the opening or ending, or appear at climactic fight scenes. Asaoka also works closely with Ken Yamamoto, one of the most popular animators. He recently directed a movie which has some of the craziest animation you can see. Michel Gonzalez is another animator who worked on Boruto and was invited by Shuhei Nakata, the assistant producer for the One Piece remake. His use of smears in action is very satisfying, and he worked on Toei's One Piece in the past. Masato Suzuki is a production assistant who works under Kawamura now. He can bring us interesting names as well, like Keisuke Okura, who is in my opinion one of the absolute best animators at Wit Studio. His action is extremely dynamic and fast-paced, and I love how he exaggerates the human body in his action. Suzuki could also bring Kohei Hirota, someone who worked a lot on One Piece in the past. He is a wild card who works on shows he likes, and his evolution is legit amazing. He recently animated the Gear 5 transformation scene in Egghead. He seems to be taking inspiration from both Yutaka Nakamura and Shu Sugita, and continues to deliver climactic scenes on My Hero Academia. Now the monster trio of Attack on Titan. Arifumi Imai. There's just too many people who work on the remake that have great relationships with him. For example, the series director Koizuka, who worked alongside him for Attack on Titan, Kawamura as well, Kiyoshi Asano, the chief animation director. He is an absolute legend who revolutionized Attack on Titan's ODM gear action. His knowledge with 3D animation to perform his scenes is jaw-dropping, and I would really like to see his work on Luffy's rubber powers. He could also direct a climactic episode, but I would prefer to see his key animation. He directed the Elusive Samurai episode 9, which featured mostly with staff. Imaizumi and Kawamura were also involved there. The other two Attack on Titan animators, Yasuyuki Ibara and Takuma Ibisu, are also two prominent names who worked on Attack on Titan. They're also both present on Kawamura's first anime, Moonrise, which will be out this year finally. Shunsuke Aoki, one of the animators with a lot of potential, he worked under Asano's supervision for Spy Family. He worked on Luffy vs. Lucci. He is an animator who seems to mostly participate on close-range combat, and he doesn't disappoint. He also appeared alongside Kawamura on Pokemon. Interestingly, that episode had Takatoshi Honda as well, who is now the co-chief animation director for One Piece Remake. Shun Miyakawa also appeared on the Pokemon episode I mentioned earlier. He is a phenomenal animator as well. His only contribution to the OG One Piece was fan letter recently. Takuma Ishikawa, a relatively new animator who participated on Kawamura's Fate commercial. He's also been posting One Piece fan art on his account. From what I can see, his effects are also promising. Kazuhiro Miwa has also worked on Kawamura's Fate commercial. He's the popular animator behind Shinra's extremely well animated kicks. I've always wanted him to do some Sanji action, so maybe this time it can happen. Megumi Tomita seems to be one of the most possible choices here on the list. She recently drew Buggy's Henchman, and she's close to Kawamura. I'm not familiar much with her work, to be honest, so we'll see. There will be, of course, a lot of names that would participate simply because they are One Piece fans. That's one advantage we have. A lot of animators were excited on Twitter with the announcement, like the French animator Dorian Coulon. Vincent has good relationships with Asaoka. He worked in the past with him, but he'll be busy on Toei's One Piece as one of its essential animators, so I don't think he'd be interested in that from what I've seen. Of course, there's a lot more, and I mean a lot I can talk about, but the likelihood of their appearances is very slim, and I don't like making the video too long, so I hope you got a brief idea about the potential animators who could participate on the remake. To be honest, Fukuda and Imaizumi are already very promising animators already. Soya Kawamura is an ambitious and promising producer, and if they don't force side projects on him alongside One Piece, I can see the remake reaching a high level of quality. Do I think it'll reach Toei's One Piece heights? I don't think so. But I do expect great stuff and great consistency despite how tame the content is for the remake at the beginning. I especially expect amazing animation for Luffy vs. Arlong climax, for example. So if you like the video, subscribe and support, and I might make another part of this when Moonrise is released, because it'll be Kawamura's first anime, and we'll get a better idea of who he can bring on his projects. Thanks for watching.